Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Tuesday, May 14th workshop. Citizens may address the council regarding any item of business that is not on tonight's agenda. The duration for an individual speaking under public input is limited to 3 minutes. While all comments are welcome, the council will not take any action on any item not on the agenda. If a citizen would like to speak or comment regarding an item that is on tonight's agenda, we ask that you wait until the agenda item is presented to the council by the chair, and the public is asked to comment. Once again, each speaker is limited to 3 minutes. Be advised that if a discussion item has an upcoming public hearing, we would request members of the public to reserve your comments until the public hearing. At the public hearing, the City Council will establish an official record that will include all of your comments, testimony, and written evidence. The City Council will base its decision on the record created during the public hearing. Any comments provided tonight will not be included in the record or considered by the council. The first item is general items, and we have nothing under that. Under executive review, we have a resolution of the City Council to amend the large grant request program pursuant to the recommendation of the Laurel Urban Renewal Agency. And I understand we do have staff ready to make this presentation.
Council President Eaton and City Councilors, it's a pleasure to be here. So I had submitted, I believe a couple weeks ago, the signed letter from the Laurel Chair, Judy Goldsby, and the meeting minutes from our most recent meeting discussing the funding increase for the large grant program. In the past couple years, the program has grown hugely. I believe in discussions with the Laurel Board, requests last year were around $400,000 or $500,000, which compared to the current budget for it is a huge increase or huge kind of ask. And so we're requesting that we increase it to around, $225,000 to help offset some of these and bring us up to a level where we can, more efficiently, provide opportunities for residents to improve their buildings, kind of just, improve flexibility for us to provide that funding, and just really more opportunities for people to improve their businesses and the tax base in the city. And I did a quick calculation today, and actually our current grant requests that are in for this year are around $225,000. And that's with 2 weeks left before the deadline for a large grant. And so we think that this would be really helpful for residents and businesses within the TIF district to help improve the tax base.
Did the council have any questions? If not, I've got a couple. I wanted to know how much tax revenue is diverted into the Laurel funds every year?
I don't have that budget on me. I could grab it from my computer upstairs, but I don't. I'm trying to think of what our current budget is right now. I believe it's $1 million?
I believe it's in excess of $1 million available at the moment.
Yeah.
And it comes in after the last fiscal year and everything's been tallied. We get it generally, I think, around February. So we're working with last year's tax increments.
And how much of your annual tax income is set aside into your various grant accounts?
So for large grant, it's of course currently $100,000, and then I believe the small grant is. Do we have a cap on that?
We don't have a cap because it's done according to hours on technical assistance. It's done according to. There's a limitation on the individual grants for signage. There's a limit on facade improvement based on your square footage, and those have a tendency to set themselves, but we have never even come close to using up our funding, it just keeps accumulating.
And did the mayor talk to Lura recently about entering into a bondable project?
Yes, I believe it was at the last meeting we had. He had stopped in to discuss bondable projects and kind of the future of the TIF district and what options we might have to extend the life of the TIF district and what options we had really overall. And so that conversation was pretty in-depth of his ideas and getting lower board feedback about what we can do and what was the focus areas of street improvements. And I know that we have, I believe on the east side, that project is being bonded. I'm not sure though.
We don't have, at this point in time, a scheduled bondable project, but we have to do one within the next 2 years so that it doesn't sunset, so that we can extend it. The mayor has also said that he is requesting that we do another TIF district, which would be inclusive of the West End development out there for the new interchange.
And so you're not quite aware yet how much the mayor is asking out of your reserves for that East End project?
I'm not sure.
We don't have a project.
I believe we've talked about options for that. I didn't know if, because these conversations for that East End project and the bondable projects have gone on at the same time. So, especially me being very new, I've been kind of thrown into it. So, a lot of that has kind of melded together because it's within the district, and there's been discussions of bonding projects within the district and all that.
He has also stated that he has been advised that there is some federal funding available for roads and things like that, that he might not have to come to Laura for a large portion of it, but we would contribute. We have on Southeast Fourth, we've done road improvements, we've done sewer improvements. So we're always there for anything that qualifies.
I have different information. With just about every question that you've asked. And I'm kind of wondering if maybe we need to set this back until the next workshop. I have $604,000 coming into the Lura funds, and of that, 37% is diverted into the various grant accounts. It is my understanding that the mayor feels that he has specifically outlined about the East End project, and that he has stated to you that he is looking at $1.5 million, which is definitely going to throw into kilter whether or not you can service that loan.
It's not presented to the Laurel board.
Okay, I think that we need to get on the same page, because I don't see how you can increase what you are granting to people and then turn around and tell them that you can't afford it. So that was one of the things that I was very concerned about. You've also got money coming in from House Bill 124. That is an issue with regard to whether or not that can even be around to help you service this loan. So I'm thinking that maybe we need to wait until the next workshop and perhaps even bring the treasurer on board with this, because I know they are building the budget, and if there's money being taken from Lura to help establish a bondable project, this isn't going to work. We're going to be taking money from one thing and then making promises to businesses, and we're not going to be helping anybody. So, if that's all right with the council, I'm seeing one person nodding. Does anybody have any questions about what was said? Is anybody out there?
No, I agree with you, Emily. I think we definitely need to, before we can, I mean, this is more than doubling their large grants for the year. So I think we definitely need some numbers presented to council around it before any of us are gonna feel, or at least I won't speak for everyone, before I'm comfortable saying yes to this. I need to see the numbers around it to back up the extension, because I agree with what Emily is saying. Like I said, this is more than double what your annual budget is for these large grants. And unless you've got the numbers to back it up to show that we're not gonna be depleting that, I'm not comfortable moving forward with it.
Well, until we find out what the mayor has in mind, which he has not presented to Laura, this program we were still in the process of trying to find a bondable project. According to the Sanderson-Stewart study that was done a few years ago, we were looking to that, and the mayor did mention that he had gone around and looked at some of the city streets and that they needed some help, but that he had been able to find some funding someplace else, so he did not address that at the Laura meeting. Last year's Laura, we had $100,000 to put out, and we had over $500,000 requested. And you can go around town and see what Laura has done with their grants. I mean, it's going on right now and continues to go on. It's a wonderful program. But, you know, until we find out what's going on, I have to agree with you.
Okay. So, the workshop of the 28th, would that give you enough time to be able to?
I believe so.
Already.
That should work.
And if not, we can, I mean, your staff, you'll be talking to the mayor, you
Yeah.
can get it on the agenda.
Yeah, of
already.
course.
Okay, thank you very much, though.
Thank you.
And it is a good project, and I totally agree, but I don't want Laura to be getting between a rock and a hard place and thinking that they've got money that they don't.
Yeah.
And
Of course.
alrighty, great. Well,
Thank you.
thank you very much. So then the next item, a resolution approving change order 1 to the contract for the City of Laurel's wastewater treatment sludge dewatering facilities and authorizing the mayor to sign all change order documents on the city's behalf. And I understand we have staff here to present that item.
Good evening, members of the council. My name is Doug Whitney. I'm with KLJ Engineering, and I'm the project engineer on the sludge dewatering project at the wastewater treatment plant. Change order 1 was a result of the existing sludge transfer pumps not being able to pump the sludge all the way down to the estimated level that for the sludge transfer, at which case the contractor stepped in and took over the pumping of the sludge. That had additional costs and time to it. He submitted a claim for $74,425 and 22 days time extension. We evaluated his claim. We concurred with $23,173 and 9 days extension. Of course, the contractor did not agree with our recommendation, but we feel that it puts the city in a better position if we pay him the undisputed monies that he's owed right now, and then we'll negotiate the remainder of it at the end of the project. Is there any questions on this?
Change order number 1.
Yes,
Was
Mr.
this
Wilkie.
obviously an unforeseen event?
Yes.
That you
Yes.
hadn't figured on?
Yes.
Correct. We figured that the city's pumps could transfer the sludge down to the top of the cone, but we got down there about 4 feet above the top of cone, and the city's pumps could not do it anymore, so they had to bring in special pumps.
Is that because of age of the pumps or the style
No,
of
it
the
was
pumps?
the
or-
material,
The what?
the material that was in the sludge.
The material that they were trying to.
See, that was real old sludge, and it was before we had our fine screen, bar screen in the headworks. So a lot of things passed through there that should never have been passed through.
The pumps can't move that.
And the pumps can't move that stuff.
Okay, all right.
So they just constantly plug up, shear pins, blow breakers. We were in danger of running our one and only pump. So we finally had to call it quits. There was just nothing else we could do.
Okay, thank you.
Questions? I have one question. So, obviously, this is, putting the project, over. Is it, are we still? We're over budget on the project, is that correct?
We're above the original bid amount. The total amount budget for the project, I'm not sure about that.
Yeah, I can't remember what our contingency was. We did have a good contingency because we had no idea what kind of shape we were gonna, what kind of problems we were gonna run into when we got into the digesters. We have no idea how bad they were, so we expected it. There's a lot of work to be done inside there, and they are doing it.
Yes, Mr. Wilkie.
Why is there such a difference in what you think it should cost and what he thinks it should cost? I don't.
Because the way the specifications were written, and my interpretation of them, is that the city was responsible for pumping the sludge down to the top of cone.
Okay,
He did additional pumping to get it down to the bottom of cone. To me, that from top of cone to bottom of cone is on the contractor, and I'm not recommending payment for that. That's where we're gonna fight.
Yeah,
Okay.
see, he's trying to charge us for that amount too,
which,
at the same time.
to
And
make the
that's-
project work, he needed to be at the top of the cone, and he took it all the way down, so I would agree,
Well,
that's on
yeah.
him.
Yeah.
He went beyond what he needed to do to make it work. I appreciate that, thanks.
Thank you. Good question.
Thank you.
All righty. So did you want to ease on into this other half?
Okay.
Go right ahead. Change order number 2 then, to this same contract.
Yes, change order number 2 is, once we got digester B down, we did an inspection on the digester. We identified about a half dozen items that needed to be fixed. Again, we didn't know what was gonna be there. We did anticipate some repair work in digester A, but we had no idea what we were gonna find in digester B. So the digester B was the first one that was drained down. Once it was drained down, we identified about a half dozen items that needed to be repaired. Asked the contractor to give us an estimated cost of it. He came back with an estimated cost of $39,000. We looked at the items, his cost, and we just could not see $39,000 anywhere there. So we issued a work directive to have him repair most of those items. One of the items the city decided to go ahead and take on themselves. The contractor did the rest of the items on a time and material basis, and it turned out to be $11,758.
Big difference.
So saved the city a considerable amount of money on there on items that needed to be fixed. So again, nobody's seen inside that digester for what, 20 years?
Yeah,
So we didn't know what we were gonna find, and nobody knew what we were gonna find in there.
yeah.
But we were able to work within the contract documents and save the city about $20,000 by doing it this way.
Questions, Mr. Wilkie?
The item that the city did, was that a major cost that could have really blew this thing up, or?
That item, what was that line item alone, was 12 or 14,000?
It was something like that, and
Yeah,
I'll bet you
and
did.
we did it, I had our guys do it, and they did a wonderful job. But they did it for, the parts alone were maybe $1,000. And then, of course, their labor to do it, but it by no means was gonna cost as much as what they were trying to ding us for.
Significant different number?
Yeah, oh,
Okay.
big, big.
So the rest, the stuff that he is doing then, that he is repairing on your instructions must be somewhat, I'll say this word, minor repairs?
Yeah, the water jackets, in there were leaking, there was, the methane box diffusers, the guns, there was minor work that had to be, there were splits in the pipe, there was a lot of welding and patchwork is what it was, inside, directly inside. And we're running into some of that now on A, we're gonna be some of that in there too.
Yeah, I'll be back.
They're old.
Okay,
Yeah, we'll be back.
okay, well, thank you.
There's a lot of work.
Questions? Well, you promised to be back, so
Oh, yeah.
hopefully it will be when you're announcing how much the city has saved again.
We
Yeah.
hope to.
All right. Well, thank you very much for your information.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All righty, that gets us down to council issues. Update on the website. And I don't see anybody leaping up to find out about this, so,
That was my item from
okay,
last week.
okay.
I thought when we had initially talked about the website, it was supposed to be up sometime in like March or April, and we're now like mid-May and it's not up, so just curious as to timeline where we're at with it.
Okay, I have 4 things that were provided to me. Website functioning and redirecting is being tested and issues are being resolved. Last of the information for the several departments is being installed. Working on the integration of the online bill pay program. Should have the website live by or before July 1st. Okay.
Sounds good.
Alrighty, thank you. The next one is an update on West Railroad. And I think you had asked for that as well.
Just where we're at on it. I know the last time we had talked about West Railroad, there were discussions around how much we had in our reserves for it versus what the state said it was going to cost. And so they weren't able to move forward at that time, and we were going back to the drawing board to look for more funds, I think is where it was left. So that was about probably 6 weeks ago that we had that discussion, so I'm just curious where we're at with that as well.
Okay, I have 2 items that are supposed to provide information for that. KLJ is helping us to determine their cost estimate as opposed to that of the state, and identifying and reviewing other sources for additional funding. So basically the same place.
Still working. Okay,
Yeah.
sounds good. Thank you.
Thank you. The next item under council review is discussion of tow-away zone near the stadium. And we have Police Chief Langvey to give us some input on that issue.
Council President Eaton, members of the council. I see it on the agenda, so I guess we're kind of free-forming it here, talking about ideals, because I don't know if we've discussed this in the past.
This comes from a presentation, a request, I guess, from Kate and Koch last week. And then a council member requested that we bring this forward and at least get some more information about why are things not being done. Councilmember Stokes, I believe you were the one who had requested.
Right. I've parked in that area when I have my knee replaced, and people park along there, and I know we have signs up. And at one point, they were paper and plastic, and they kind of folded over. Can we put some kind of signs up there that say no parking, like actual metal signs that say no parking?
Okay, so around the stadium, what specifically?
The
what-
handicap area.
The handicap area.
Right.
Okay,
And
absolutely.
it can be a pain if you got $6.50 or on your truck and to get in and out of people parking along there and the paper signs are full, they just don't pay attention to them. So can we put some metal signs up if we have to go so far as to put, you can be towed if you park there? Cause it is a no parking zone against that fence.
Right. On the
What
back
can we-
side of that, right?
Correct, in that handicap area.
Just make the sign a no parking tow zone.
Right, and you know, what can we do? I
Because
mean,
we had those signs some time ago where they put them up and said, this is all handicap parking, basically,
and
all the
then they
time.
park against the fence and.
Right.
They put signs, paper signs and sleeves at one point and zip tied them up there and people don't seem to paying attention to that. And
Right. And,
if we could put metal signs up, or if we have to go so far as to put signs up that telling people you will be towed, cause it is tough to park in and out of there.
right, well, and when they first put them in, I guess I'd have to default back to some basic information as, my understanding at the time is those handicap parking spots were put in for, to meet, federal guidelines for the, stadium seating, is best I can recall, that was my understanding. Whose property is it? Is it the school district's? Cause it coincided with the stadium. Did the city, give that up, or is that still city parking in there? Some of the issues I've had with the signs are, even how they're posted. Montana law requires before you write a parking citation for the handicap that it has to be posted up. You have to have what the fine amount is. And off the top of my head, and it's been a minute since I've had to address it, is that you have to have the sign on the bottom. But I do know you have to at least have it up and have the sign up there. Regardless of that, we enforce it as a handicapped-only parking. And I've spoken with the city attorneys in the past and believe that along those signs is in sense, when you park there, you may not be technically in the spot, but you have rendered that spot unusable. So we have written parking prohibited places there before. As far as towing off of private property, it becomes a little bit of a different issue. Through Montana statute and Laurel Municipal Code, under certain conditions, law enforcement is authorized to tow a vehicle off a public street. But when you get into a parking lot, the rules change. Same as a good analogy is if there's a traffic accident on a public way that stayed open to the public versus the Walmart parking lot. So I believe that the city can probably come up with something and make it a prohibited parking spot, but I'd have to do more research and make sure that, see exactly what the laws say with it being on private property.
Because I'm talking about along the backside of the fence. People will park parallel to that fence. So if you are a handicap parking in there.
Right. Yeah, we're off the street, we're in the,
We are in
we're
the
in the park on that private property. And so I'm not sure if that was just, back in the day, the city went, yeah, you can use this to fulfill your requirements.
So we have to find out whose parking spot. No one seems to know if that is the schools or the cities.
That's always been my question. But we have operated with it being in a parking in a prohibited place under Laurel Municipal Code. It hasn't been an issue yet, but if we're gonna move forward and lock this down tight, I like to have my ducks in a row and make sure we don't have any surprises down the road and that we just follow the procedure. So, absolutely, signage and then, being able to get in there and, the biggest thing I used to have to deal with, other than events, are the Little League games. Folks wanna, for whatever reason, just pull right up in there and block it off, cause for whatever reason, I can't tell you why, so. But, first of all, that's what I'd have to fall back to, is find out, if it's a school district, superintendent's been around a long time too, and maybe she has an idea of how that ended up. And then move forward with me just double checking with it being private property and not a way that stayed open to the public. But, and if they're, obviously, if they're in the spot where without a permit, then we've written the Montana code for handicap parking violation.
Any other questions? Yes, Mr. Wilkie.
Would it be possible to have some of that information before the next workshop?
I will do my
Of who owns that ground, and then
Yeah.
kind of go from there?
next workshop, absolutely.
That, to me, that's the first thing you
That's
gotta
the
get past,
foundation.
is
Yep.
who owns the ground? You can't enforce laws that you put in place on somebody else's property. They have to give you permission to do that.
We have to make sure that we still, I have a sneaking suspicion that was probably a fairly informal thing. I'm gonna guess that the school might have came forward with, we have this problem. We have to comply by federal regulations, X amount of parking spots for X amount of seating. Because it was at the same time that they were going around putting handicap parking spots in the high school parking lot as well. So just to make themselves compliant. But even some of those spots, if you've been out there, they have the symbol, the handicap symbol on the ground. Well, if you really wanted to go by what the Montana Supreme Court has said, it has to be a sign posted, and you have to have that fine amount in order for it to be enforced.
If it's possible, I would like to see that at the next workshop,
Okay, absolutely. I'll get together everything I can for you,
if it's possible.
and maybe have the total answer for you.
I would appreciate it, thank you.
Okay.
And I am seeing Kate Ann Cope wants to speak on this, and we do have code enforcement information from the city planner that he would like to have you present.
Yeah, I can fill in a lot of your questions. because
Do you
we
want to
work
come
on
forward and introduce yourself and,
Sorry, council. My name is Dan Koch. K-Dan stands for Carl Dan Koch. I live at 320 Colorado. And this is my third year of working on this parking lot. And I don't want a tow-away zone. It's public property. We just need to make it bigger so the public can park there. That's where I started with this. Maybe if the lines had been at the angle, then we could all pull in. And if people were parked on the opposite side, you could get out. That's where I started with it. I also came up with bagging them because it's only 3 months out of the year that the school uses it. It is a handshake agreement with Mayor Olson to donate the property to them if they complied with the striping and the signage. What help I've got out of the school was to paint the curbs blue. Heidi bought us a sign that says its entire parking lot is for handicapped. I don't want the entire parking lot handicapped. Yes, I am handicapped and I want to park there, but I think that the people from Red Lodge or Billings or whatever, they want to pull up there and worry about their windshield getting busted, let them pull up there and park. And the only thing we got to do is make the pavement wider so they can park there and they can leave those spots exactly like they are. And it is public property that's there. It isn't the school's, it's ours. It's a handshake agreement. And that's what I want. And you say tow-away zone. We don't want to tow them away because they want to watch a ball game. We just want to make the parking lot available for the public because it is public land. Thank you. And I'd like to visit with you.
and we've got city planner again with code enforcement.
Hello again. Good to be here. So I was told this morning by the Public Works Director that I would be attending this meeting for this. And so I did a little bit of reading and I talked to Kurt about the history of it, and I know I had met with Mr. Koch, I believe last month, and we went through the issue and discussed it. And so Kurt had let me know today that it is city-owned land. And so there was an agreement with the school district to have it be handicap parking for the stadium, and have that be accessible parking for people with disabilities and handicaps. just from thoughts that I've had on the issue, I think, this is parking for the general public, for general handicap public for all year round. And as I think that improving the lot and improving parking in the area would be helpful, I just have some concerns because the idea of possibly making it seasonal handicap parking comes with a lot of pitfalls, especially in regards to the Americans with Disabilities Act and federal regulations, because that would also then lead to enforcement issues, making it very difficult for officers to understand, kind of setting different regulations and what their guidelines would be. So I think that would leave us with some liability problems. And just in general, and Kurt had let me know today, is that is for the general public. That was kind of the agreement between the school district and the mayor at the time, was that it's city-owned land, so it's for the general public to use for whatever's going on in the park, whether it's for school-related or for something else, or whatever other event there is. And so I think, especially in regards to the chief of police, I'd be happy to work with him and our code enforcement officer to figure out what we can do and answer questions and try and develop something. But it's really at the mayor's direction that we work, that especially city staff works. So we'd want to get his input on what steps to move forward and how we should best approach it.
Questions? Mr. Wilkie?
As you've already mentioned, I would have a real issue with having this seasonal. We have handicap parking. Other season, we don't have handicap parking. So how do you take care of the signs that are there? Make it handicap parking, period. It's easier for the police department to monitor, to write citations on. If you don't want a tow-away zone, fine. But at least you got a place where if you aren't handicapped, don't have a placard in your car or a license plate that says you are, you're out of there. I just don't think it's not this part of the year we can, this part of the year we can't, and it is extremely difficult to monitor that, and I think that's really stupid, if you want my opinion.
Yeah. And I think especially for just clarity, for having signs be very specific, there's the manual of uniform traffic control devices that are very specific about handicap parking, about no parking signs, about accessibility, about all of those markings. And so utilizing that with enforcement and with a general clear policy from the city, I think would be our best bet.
I agree.
Mr. Stokes?
I have to agree, like, that is, because we have 4th of July, we have everything else going on, track and field, that's handicap parking. My big concern has always been, people seem to want to park against the fence, and that's where we need no parking or towing. If you park in a handicap zone, you got your little tag or you got your plate, that's fine. If you don't, you park in that spot, you get ticketed. But along the back of the fence.
And that's, I think, and that also can be addressed, especially with clear signage of just improving the signage and improving the markings on the actual parking lot. I think would help that, because at this point, if you see someone parking in that lot and they don't have a sticker or a plate, they should be called in and to the police or to let them know that they're illegally parked and that they should be cited for it.
And I know the police don't always have the time to get out there and do it, because people will, but we have to, that's handicap, and you don't get to park against the fence, you don't get to do this, you don't get to make your own rules.
Totally agree. Yep.
And so at this point then, as you said, it's up to the mayor to direct you. So do you report back to the mayor then with your recommendation about changing the signs then? And it will come before the council again then when the signs are changed?
I believe so, yeah. I can follow up with the mayor to give him an update on this conversation and kind of what you've all noted and asked questions on, and we can see what his opinion is and how we can best move forward and what he'd like staff to do, and then we can bring it back in front of the council.
Okay,
Perfect.
does that meet everyone's approval?
Yep. Yes. Perfect.
Okay, all right. Well, thank you very much for the second time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All righty, so For the benefit of those who arrived late, we are now at other items. Did anyone, let's go around the table. Councilmember Sparks?
I don't have anything at this time.
Councilmember Herr?
I have nothing, sir. Ma'am?
Councilmember Wilkie?
I have nothing at this time, thank you.
Councilmember Stokes?
I have nothing.
Councilmember McGee?
I don't have anything, thank you.
Well, I just wanted to remind everyone of the Public Works meeting. It will be Monday, the 20th,
Correct.
at 6:30 in the conference room, and I believe the Emergency Services is meeting here then at 6.
Yes.
Are we 6 or 6:30?
Six.
We're 6 o'clock, okay. That-
Both are six?
They're both at 6.
Okay, they're both at 6, they're both in this building, just different rooms.
Right.
All right, and draft council agenda. We will not be voting then on the resolution regarding the large grant request until we hear more from the city planner. And attendance at the upcoming council meeting. Is everyone who is here going to be here? Some of us hope so, some of us. Alrighty, announcements. May employee recognition. We have Cynthia Caswell, 4 years. She's with the wastewater treatment plant. Andrew Arnson is 2 years. He's with Public Works. Karen Courtney, 2 years. She is code enforcement, Public Works. Under volunteers, we've got Doug Fox, 23 years with the fire department. Brent Peters, that is a correction. He has been with the fire department for 20 years, not 12. Justin Koslecki, 4 years with the fire department. Bruce McGee, 9 years on the police reserves. So please thank these individuals for their additional service. Gosh, and I kind of forewarned the council secretary that we were not going to have a short meeting, that this was going to drag on until the wee hours of the morning, and here we are, adjourning the thing at 11 after 7. So thank you very much.
So that handicap parking